This happened about 2 years ago, around 3 in the morning. I was working in the aisles in a 24/7 grocery store when I heard footsteps coming fast from the front end. I looked up and saw a woman moving toward me. She was maybe 30, and her face was wrong before she even said a word. She was trying to walk normally and wasn't managing to. She came up and asked if she could use my phone. I started to say we had one at the customer service desk when she leaned in close and said quietly, "The man who came in with me, don't look at him. Don't react. He's been following me, and he's not going to stop." I didn't look. I kept my eyes on her. She said it fast and low, like she'd been practicing the sentence. I pulled out my phone and held it below the shelf between us, and she took it without even looking down. He'd followed her from 2 stops before this one, a gas station and a pharmacy. Then I looked up the aisle. There was a man standing at the far end, maybe 60 feet away. He wasn't holding anything, just standing with his arms at his sides in the middle of the aisle, completely still. The thing that registered wasn't his face, it was how little he was doing. People in grocery stores at 3 a.m. are always doing something. Checking their phone, reading a label, moving around. He wasn't doing any of it. He just stood there, watching us. She hadn't turned around. She knew exactly where he was without looking. He's gonna come closer now that he saw me talk to you. For a moment, nothing happened. He didn't move, didn't look away. Then he started walking down the aisle. Not fast, not browsing, no glancing at shelves. Just a steady pace that covered ground without looking like trying to. He stopped about 30 feet out and picked up a box, turned it over, and put it back. It took maybe 2 seconds. His eyes came up immediately after. Straight to us, like the box never mattered. She pressed closer to the shelf and said, "I need you to call someone without him seeing. I need you to act normal." I said I was going to radio the manager. "Don't use the radio. He'll hear the noise." She was right. I texted my manager instead. The man came up to the end cap and turned in. He was in the same aisle now. He stopped about 25 feet back and pulled out his phone. Held it like he was reading something. The screen was dark. He stood there for a long moment, not scrolling, not moving, looking at us over top of it. He started walking again. When he was about 10 feet out, he looked up like he just noticed us and said, "There you are. I was looking everywhere." She didn't answer. He turned to me. His expression didn't change. "She does this. I'm sorry if it scared you. She has episodes sometimes. Is she bothering you?" I told them both that I need to see ID before they went anywhere. He smiled. "I'm not sure that's something you can actually require." He looked at her. She hadn't turned around. "Let's go." My manager came around the corner 30 seconds later. He read the situation and told the man we had a concern reported, asked him to wait at the front. The man looked at each of us and said, "Sure." He walked to the front. He didn't leave, just stood near the doors, visible and waiting. We got the woman into the back office and called the police. She gave them a description and a partial plate. The man slipped out the front door before the police even arrived. They never identified him. She told me not to react, not to look. She knew what he was going to do before he did it. And still, he almost walked out with her. I worked overnight at a laundromat for almost a year. Midnight to 6, mostly alone. It was a wide open space, one long room, machines on both walls, and at that hour, the only sounds were the hum of whatever was running in the fluorescent lights overhead. It was a Thursday, around 3 a.m. Nobody had come in for 40 minutes and I wasn't expecting anyone before 5. I was at the far end of the store when the door opened. A man came in carrying a small drawstring bag. He was in his mid-40s, wearing plain clothes, nothing that would have stood out anywhere. He loaded a machine near the front, sat down with his phone, and for the first 20 minutes, he was exactly what he looked like. Someone doing laundry late because that's when they could. A little while later, he asked from across the room how long I'd been working there. I said a little bit. 5 minutes later, he asked when my shift ended. I said 6 a.m. He looked back at his phone. The room was quiet. I kept moving, straightening things that didn't need straightening. He looked up again, and I almost let it go. Told myself it was just conversation. Then he set his phone on his knee, looked up slowly, and said, "Is that your car out front? The silver one?" That was the only car in the lot. I said yes. He nodded, like I confirmed something he'd already settled. I looked over at the machine he'd loaded. There was no drum turning, no water cycling. He put clothes in and never started it. I was starting to get a little nervous, so I moved behind the counter. He got up and moved to a machine closer to the middle of the room. not the one he'd loaded, and sat down facing me. "You here by yourself tonight?" I said we had someone coming in soon. He looked around the room slowly, then back at me. "I don't see anyone coming in." I said they came through the back. He looked at me for a moment without blinking. "No, you didn't." I didn't say anything. He held eye contact for another second, then looked down. He stood up and walked back to the original machine, lifted the lid, looked inside without touching anything. Then he came back and sat down in a closer seat, close to the counter now. "How do you get home after? Do you drive?" I said yes. "Alone?" I had my hand on my phone under the counter. I called the non-emergency line. Kept my voice flat, requesting a drive-by. He watched me make the call without any change in expression. When I hung up, he asked, "Everything okay?" I said it's okay. He got up, walked back to the first machine, pulled the clothes out, and walked to the door. Before he walked out, he paused and looked at me. "Have a good night." Then he left. A patrol car came 11 minutes later. The officer took a report and left. This was 3 years ago. I was working in a 12-story office complex, which was completely dead after 9 p.m. I was on the 11th floor at around 2:30 a.m. when I saw it, a light on at the far end of the hall. That section had been dark for weeks, no after-hours approvals in the system. I walked toward it. There was a man sitting at the workstation near the window. His jacket was on, his laptop open, a small stack of papers to one side. He looked up when I came in and didn't startle, just turned his head at normal speed, like he heard me coming in and just decided to turn. He said, "Hey, sorry, am I not supposed to be up here?" I told him that floor was restricted and asked for his badge. He patted his jacket, then his pants, and said he left it downstairs. He gave me a name, said he was new, said he lost track of time preparing for our morning meeting. I radioed the name to the desk. Nothing came up. He said he probably wasn't entered in the system yet. He only started on Monday. HR was still processing it. He said it without hesitating, without looking away, in the same tone he'd used since I walked in. He didn't close the laptop. I asked him to step away from the workstation while I made a call. He stood up, moved about 4 feet, and stopped. I got the building manager on the phone and started describing the situation. And while I was talking, the man asked whether we checked all 12 floors every rotation or just the flagged ones. I stopped mid-sentence. He said he was curious about the setup being new to the building. The building manager confirmed no new hires had been authorized for after-hours access that week. I told the man it was time to go. He looked at me for a moment without moving, then said calmly, "Do I have to leave right now? I'm not causing any problems." He held my eye contact and waited. I told him yes, right now, building policy. He nodded slowly and started gathering his things, folding the papers one at a time, aligning the edges, and setting them down. They were blank, clean white sheets, nothing printed on them. The laptop had no sticker, no mark of any kind on the outside. "I noticed you skipped the 9th floor in your last rotation. Does that happen often?" I hadn't skipped the 9th floor. I never skip floors. I asked him what he meant by that. I must be remembering wrong. He didn't look up from what he was doing. I walked him to the elevator and took the stairs down. He was already in the lobby when I got there. I had the desk attendant log him out. He looked at me from across the hallway, not hostile, just present, and then walked out. The access log showed he hadn't badged in through any entrance. The entrance on the east side had a faulty latch, and the camera covering it had been angled slightly off its mount. The footage showed a wall. He'd known which floor had a gap in the coverage. When I caught the 9th floor mistake, he absorbed it in one breath and kept moving.